Thanks, Dan. And yes, Activate New Mexico, I serve as a mentor for that program, but my day job is as fund manager of ABQ ID Fund and Ingenuity Venture Fund. Website is in development as we speak for the latter. I'm here to empower people, and I think empowering entrepreneurs is one of the best multiplier forces we can apply. I think as of February it was super important, and as of now it's even more important as we look at company destruction through COVID. There's going to be a percentage of that happening, which paves the way for company and innovation and creation. And that's really the powerhouse panel that we have here, are company and organization creation specialists. I'm a little overwhelmed by the power in the room, as it were, in the four panelists we have for you today. I don't know how we're going to pack in each of their fantastic voices into just 40 minutes, but we're going to do the old college try. But yeah, networking will ensue afterwards. So all those burning questions you still have for one or more of our panelists, you'll be able to use Remo pretty frictionlessly as we just ease right into some networking after about 35 minutes hence. That's me, and what I'd like to do now is actually stop talking and let each of these wonderful women introduce their organizations themselves, what they're doing, and then we'll get to that, tell their story, and then we'll get to that very important topic of storytelling and how and why it matters for your businesses. So Kanani, if you don't mind, let's start with you. This is Kanani Vogelai.
Thank you, TJ. So I am the founder and CEO of FruitStand Technology. And what we do, we build websites. And what I really wanted to do with my company was bring that neighborhood-friendly buying experience to technology. So what I saw so often was that tech can be kind of intimidating. You put a bunch into building this whole website, and then 3 years later, it's, it needs to be redone anyways. And so really my intention is just to make tech friendly and approachable. So we have a la carte online system where you can kind of build the website that fits you. You're always going to have somebody that's like a person you can talk to. And then we have a plan where we just rebuild your website every 3 years for the cost of, just for the monthly subscription. So that's what I do. And I love making technology a tool that helps instead of a scary thing that you have to mess with. So that's my goal for businesses.
Nothing big, just make it easy where it's totally been hard. And ambitious and visionary goal. Kanani came through Activate New Mexico, our very first cohort, and that's how I got to know her, and just honored to know you, Kanani, and be a part of that vision.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going left to right, by the way, on my screen, no alphabets. But Marie, thank you for attending. Marie has done amazing work for years for New Mexico Santa Fe. Introduce yourself, Marie.
Hi, Marie Longseer with the Santa Fe Business Incubator, which was a field of dirt and grass 23 years ago, and today is a 30,000 square foot business incubator housing startup companies of a wide variety of industry sectors, anything from biotech, small service businesses, software development companies, manufacturing, digital technologies, just whatever's bubbling up in our community and where the opportunities are, we have people in that. We have a blend of a place and a program and a community that we've built there. The place is very different right now, as you can imagine, but people still need a home base for their business. And we have a number of specialty labs, like a special bio lab, a fab lab, digital fabrication lab. We have spaces where people really need to manage their inventory. And some people simply whatever their situation is, they can't work at home. So the building is still being used. It was all along. Most of our companies are essential businesses, so they never did shut down. But coupled with that is a training program of coaching, mentoring, advising, peer work, and a wonderful like 60-person group of advisors and mentors that volunteer from different industry sectors to work with our clients. But I think right now the real secret sauce we have, maybe not so secret, don't want it to be a secret, what is the network we've built over 22 plus 23 years. We built an incredible network of connections to capital, to resources, to national labs, to research universities, et cetera. And that really does help the clients when they need something, is if we don't know something, somebody does. So it's exciting times, it's weird times, and we're all in our world practicing being in the moment and just getting on with it.
If there's anything entrepreneurs have become good at, it is that. Thanks, Marie. And if you can mute, we're getting a little echo when your mic is, there you go. I can hear myself. Is everybody else hearing that too? But when you were talking, Marie, that was great. So we heard you loud and clear. Again, honored to have you here and represent the work you've been doing. It takes time to build that type of network, and I've seen it firsthand when I first served in as a mentor or something for something there. I felt the energy first time I stepped into the SFBI. So really good stuff. Melanie, also based there in Santa Fe. Introduce yourself and what you're up to.
Hey, morning, everyone. I'm Melanie Lindsay, and I have a little group called the Kickass Entrepreneurs of Santa Fe. And actually, it's developed into something where we're essentially create community around storytelling. But that's not how it started. 2.5 years ago, when I started doing this, I actually had been at the Incubator. I was vetting 2 business ideas because I was walking away from another business I didn't want to do anymore. Incubator had an amazing program, Runway, vetted those ideas, worked with Sean O'Shea, who now is with Hatchform, his own consultancy company, which I also work with now. He's awesome. But at that time, I just didn't know what I was going to do, but I was fired up by all of the entrepreneur energy and the stories. I simply love stories, and I love going and visiting new places. So it was really a totally selfish idea for starting this, which was, I'm going to start a meetup group. If people come, they come. If they don't, they don't. But all centered around entrepreneur story time. So it's a different entrepreneur, different ages, stages, and industries each month. We were doing it at a different venue. Now we've shifted over to Zoom temporarily. We will be back again at some point. But different story each month. They were traditionally 2-hour events, half hour for schmoozing, hour for the story, but we also give the venue owner 5 minutes to tell their short story. So people get to hear and learn about the business, what made them start. Once the feature entrepreneur comes on, it's great because we also ask them about sharing resources that they've found useful, which is just immediately a way for people in the audience to connect to and learn about, well, if this was something they were thinking about checking into or researching more, didn't know who to talk to about it. Great way. It was just a way, all of a sudden, all of these natural connections were happening, all through storytelling. And so it's grown. We have over 500 meetup members now. Our biggest event was 65, and that was at the beginning of this year. And they are after hours events. So it typically was 6:30 to 8:30. Now we're 6:30 to 7:30 on Zoom. First Thursday of every month, but it's simply become just a natural way. People attach to people and they attach to story. I mean, it's all, there's all that science behind it, brain to brain triggering, the dopamine, the endorphins, all of that jazz. There actually is a lot of science behind it, but it's been fantastic just to see within this community how people just kept coming. People like it, and that's why I will be launching towards probably more towards the end of the year, but Kickass Entrepreneur Communities, because I am looking to spread the good kind of community spread, looking to spread
Good
to
spread.
other communities around New Mexico, and then eventually, well, kind of want to take over the world. I want kick-ass entrepreneurs everywhere.
I like it. Thank you, Melanie. Well, the heart of what you're doing is storytelling. That's what we're driven by in our conversation today. So we're going to get back to that. But before we do, Olivia, hello and welcome, and introduce yourself and what you're up to.
Hi, TJ. Hi, everyone. I am Olivia Grabowska. I'm the Director of Strategy and Community Development at Fe Innovates. Fe Innovates is a business accelerator program focused on social entrepreneurialism and social enterprise and all things social good. So, and the reason I say it that way is because it really is a pretty large umbrella, right? When we think about what social responsibility is, what social enterprise means, all of those things, are pretty. They have pretty broad definitions. And so, what we're looking to do is really identify businesses or entrepreneurs that do want to pursue specific types of causes, ideas, et cetera, and figure out whether there is a problem that is being solved. And so, interestingly enough, when we were kind of sort of coming into this, we were supposed to launch actually our accelerator program in April of this year. We, Santa Fe Innovates, are born out of the business incubator here, out of Santa Fe Business Incubator. Our founder, John Mertz, started there. And basically we, we're all set to go. And, obviously COVID hit and we had a fully in-person program. And so we, as a result, pivoted and are now really pleased and excited to announce that in the next couple of weeks, we will be launching a virtual program online. And again, it is focused on basically building out a problem solution set and really kind of focusing on whether you are solving a problem with your solution. We are very, very entrenched and rooted in lean, and that is sort of what we're following and what we're promoting. And many of us on this call are very familiar with that, so I'm not going to go too far into detail. But really, the problem that we feel we are solving is we are, well, for Santa Fe in general and for northern New Mexico, which is our current target market. Economic diversity is something that we are focusing on, and that is a goal for us as a result of, that's what we want the result to be for our accelerator companies is to basically allow for this really fantastic area of New Mexico and New Mexico in general to benefit from different types of businesses. We're in Santa Fe, we're very heavily arts focused and hospitality focused. And so, we have this, super incredible, set of knowledge and people and intellect in the community, within 100 miles of us even, and it's, and so we really want to basically promote that and that's what our goal is at this point. And the problem that we're solving is that we're creating this kind of accelerator program that is focused on social impact models and business models as well. So we're sort of weaving that into the lean curriculum. So we're really excited about it. We've been working pretty hard on it. So yeah, we're really excited, and we're a newly minted B Corp. That's another thing. Newly minted
B Corp. If you're not familiar with B Corp, it's bcorporation.net is where you can find out a little bit more about that and the nonprofit behind it, B Lab. Awesome stuff. And we did have a session a while back where we talked all about alternative business models and got deep in the weeds of cooperatives and all sorts of good stuff, which was awesome. And John was on that, so good stuff. Marie, Melanie, Olivia, Kanani, thank you so much. I think there's 4 really awesome stories there. You just kind of summarized. I want to get right into it. I want to kind of premise for this session, the hypothesis is that storytelling can be a tool to transfer knowledge and connect communities. In a way, you are all doing that. Even Kanani, you as a direct business, you are trying to tell a story for each of your clients, and by extension, tell a story about personalizing, humanizing the trials and tribulations of website development, make it easy as going to the fruit stand. Marie, there's a plethora of stories. Oh my gosh, the past how many years, right, of different types of business. And that, Marie, I kind of want to start with you on the kind of core questions. How can startups tell stories, and what's the value for them in telling stories? So kicking it off to you for a few minutes on mining your past experience with SSBI. What's the importance of story been for your company?
When I first got out of college, after I taught high school English for a while, I did some work in marketing and PR and sales and advertising. And I learned both in teaching and in advertising. Story is the way to connect, and we cannot connect with people unless they're paying attention and something's getting in. And story is a way for things to get in. So basically, right now particularly, but even before now, if you're not connecting with people, you're not able to grow your business, you're not able to get customers, you're not able to get investors, nothing happens. So, I mean, it's very hard for me to even think about drawing this out. I can't wait to hear what Melody's going to say, because honestly, I think that we could just put a sign up that says, storytelling is communication, storytelling is connecting, period. And if I have a moment, I would like to tell a story real quickly about something I just saw. All of our companies have found that they get the most building of their network, the most connection to customers when they are letting them in and they're somehow touching one-on-one. And I watched a documentary the other day called Mucho Mucho Amor, The Mysterious Life of Walter Mercado. And Walter Mercado had an international following. He was an astrologer, and he wore these Liberace clothes, and when he sort of disappeared, people just went crazy, and when he reappeared, it was even more interesting. But Walter Mercado could go onto a television or a radio or a video and reach through and pull people into him in a way that I have just rarely seen. And everything was connection. And as I was thinking about today's topic, I thought how important it is to be able to connect even though we're apart. And that was true before, whether we're doing it through this medium right now or whether we were sitting across from each other in a room or a training or a coffee table, we have to connect. And then mysteriously, I opened my Facebook page last night and found Royalty Glam Makeup. Royalty Glam Makeup is coming to us out of California, and it sells all over the world, Puerto Rico, all over the country. And it's a young woman who worked, I believe, before this in a beauty parlor. And now she has replicated Home Shopping Network for herself through Facebook video. And she's got all her products and people, and she's not taking calls. She's standing there talking to people through the computer while the camera's in her face. And I've never seen anything like it. And we've got to learn to bend the mediums, people are taking different mediums and they're going as far into it and they're twisting it around and they're making it new. And that's something we always have to do. That's something businesses always have to do, is use every technique they have.
That's really great. I picked up on a few things that said story is. If you could mute Maria, that'd be great. It's a way for things to get in. We must let them in. Them being customers, clients, partners, co-founders, staff. Like, it's fantastic. And Kanani, I want you to go last, but you'll recall story is a big part of how we train our entrepreneurs on pitching, is to tell a story. Yes, you got to have the numbers and the up and to the right J-curve chart and all sorts of the good stuff that investors and others want to see, but you can't get there until people are in, like Marie said, and you can't get them in without first telling a story. Good stuff. Melanie, let's go to you. I know you got a lot to say, but keep it to 7 hours, would you? No, but keep maybe 2 or 3 minutes. What are your big takeaways here? How to tell stories? What's the value of storytelling that you've seen in startups?
The value. People just assume more with people than they do with products. It's that, Brene Brown famous quote, people attached to data's or stories or data without soul. I'm saying that wrong. Stories, data. I think we know this quote, and I don't have it in front of me right now. But people simply attach to people, which is why, like the way that I look at it for businesses is that there are just so many different ways to tell stories on digital platforms, because there's so many different types of stories: personal stories, company stories, brand stories, product stories, team member story, client win stories. You could do a team member, like meet the team campaign on social media. Like social media is just a fantastic way, but I also feel like there are some important things that are very helpful in using that in sort of to tell mini stories by using a conversational tone and bringing energy and coming from a place of gratitude. And also, like, for whatever reason, I have just found emojis work. Like, people just like seeing emojis. They're fun. Have some fun with your story, because then other people will be having fun with you too, and then just simply want to engage. Also, when you're doing that, tagging and hashtagging, like tagging so other people know that you're engaging with them and showing people love in that way so that other people can find them. So it's not all about you. Another thing that I've noticed in this like social media right now and parts of telling the story, because I've been telling the story of the fact that I won't know until after midnight tonight if Entrepreneur Magazine is going to officially contest my trademarks, because I'm trying to trademark Kickass Entrepreneurs and Entrepreneur Storytime. Well, Entrepreneur Magazine does not want anyone else using the word entrepreneur. They have until midnight tonight. I will know, and I will be putting out more posts on my social media about this. But I've been putting out a couple of posts, about like I'm just crossing my fingers and explaining to others what's going on. And just by doing that, I'm just finding people are engaging with these pictures of me crossing my fingers more than they have engaged with practically anything I put out. So it's bringing that, like, I think people just are like the person behind. And I don't love taking selfies in any way, shape, or form, but I like it. In a way, it does feel good for me too to be able to connect. Of course, little videos work. I also think LinkedIn profiles. This is a great place for people to tell their stories, and people barely ever take the opportunity. Not barely, but people just often miss that opportunity. And as well, businesses, your about page, your about us website, like page, you really do need to be telling your story there and making it also personal. Give people a little bit of you. Make a conversational tone. It doesn't need to be people in suits and like, even if your job is suity, like put a fun fact about yourself or your team member in there, like hiked all 14ers, or, have 8 siblings, have 3 kids, 4 dogs, whatnot. People attach to those types of things. And I do, like, for anyone, and we could talk on like the little networking about, so I've read these, but Talk Like TED, one of my favorites. This book is all about the 9 public speaking secrets of the world's top minds. And I started to read this book years ago. It had another career where story was actually really important. It's all about how the top minds in business use story. Not all about that, but a great part of this book is about how they use story effectively in order to engage and get somewhere that others that are simply just throwing out data or facts are not. And then there's this book, which is Start with Story by Lynn Graft. And this guy is actually a Las Cruces native as well. And this is the Entrepreneur's Guide to Using Story to Grow Your Business. And I'll put this in the chat as well with links to the books. But this is this entire book. And then you could also, if you go to his website, the seven proven steps to create a great story for your business. So it'll help you walk you through. So it's all stories about, or it gives plenty of stories so you can see and feel. And it's also going to help walk you through pulling out pieces of your story. And another thing is that our stories are constantly changing. So even if you do your about page or your LinkedIn profile, don't forget to go back there. And do I have one more? Did I take up 8 hours of time? Or the one story, and like, I don't know if anyone, but I would recommend also checking out the Anti-CEO Playbook, which is a TED Talk. And that is by the founder of Chobani. And I tell you, so it was actually Sean O'Shea with Hatchform I work with who recommended, he's like, have you seen that? You got to like watch this video. And I'm a Stony Brook yogurt loyalist. I eat yogurt every morning. So like, this is big for me. I listened to this dude's TED Talk, and part of it too, because I was a property caretaker for 22 months in upstate New York in this rural farm. So I got this community story, like this piece of this community that he was talking about. Well, you know what's in my fridge right now? Chobani. And Chobani is probably all ever eat from this point on, because I don't care. It's more expensive, but I feel as though I'm giving to that company, this founder who believes in his people, the way that the company is formed. I don't know if it is a B Corp, but simply watching that TED Talk and the way that he told the story about his company made me engage. And now that's my new brand. It's good yogurt too.
Awesome. Yes, it is a B Corp. Just to assuage any concerns there. Although you don't have to be a B Corp to be an awesome company making a difference, but yeah, it's pretty a good aligned. I have some follow-ups here, but I want to hear from Olivia first, and then Kanani. But to plant the seed of the follow-up, I'm a little devil advocate on my shoulder over here. This is just for consumer companies, right? Storytelling. Once you get to be a B2B company, you know, team members on the about page disappear, you put on the suit and you get business done. So plant the seed for that and see what everybody thinks about that. But Olivia, what's your take on this? What are your thoughts when it comes to how important storytelling is and the value you've seen for startups you've worked with?
Sure. Well, you know, as an accelerator and as a provider of curriculum, you know, this is something that we basically teach, right? As a part of the curriculum is how to tell a story about your product, about, you know, that's what the pitch is, essentially. Your elevator pitch is a shortened version of your story, right? And so the importance of that really is, you know, to kind of echo Melanie and Marie's sentiments, certainly about connection, but, you know, in an entrepreneurial sense, being an entrepreneur can be a pretty lonely thing sometimes. And so the importance of being able to relate to other entrepreneurs as well, and other people, obviously, especially during this time, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have sort of noticed this increased instance of people wanting to connect, you know, even though we're kind of all zoomed out, and, you know, and all that. But I mean, I've been in so many situations where people have been just dying for connection. And so, you know, I think now it's more important than ever before. And so, yeah, so I think that, you know, with regards to startups, really, I mean, there have been so many times, you know, in my past sort of lives and careers where I've looked to other examples, right, of startups and businesses that were going through similar problems that I was going through. I would Google a specific problem, and I would, either find, some kind of case study on it, or find a blurb on Reddit, and, and that would immediately alleviate, so much anxiety, and also provide different solution sets to things that I just didn't necessarily think about. So, not only is it connection, but it's also relation, right? It's relation to the fact that we're, that we don't have to be an island when we're entrepreneurs. And obviously that's why we build community, and why we have mentors and coaches, and why we join, accelerators and incubators, because that's the value. So I think that there's, a lot of strength in that, and storytelling is massively important for that.
Awesome. And Kanani, thanks, Olivia. Kanani, I know you wanted to share really some practical advice here that you've, as in your capacity as FruitStand, seen business after business falter here and there with their storytelling. And so, what are your biggest seeds you want to plant in our attendees' minds here around how they can tell stories effectively, and maybe talk about ways you've seen us be very ineffective and time wasting?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things, why don't I talk, I'm going to answer your question with a story. So imagine that we are, as a business, we are a ship out on the sea and we're going fishing. But we're going fishing for little fishies with a ton of agency, right? And so they, you need to entice them into your net. You need to bring them to your ship. You need to get them onto your ship, and you need to keep them happy so that they don't jump right back off of your ship. Those little fishies obviously are your customers, and the people that, hopefully turn into your advocates, the people that are there for you in your business. And story is once okay, this is my story, this is what is compelling, this is what, when I tell this story, it reaches out into the ocean and it connects with that person who is going to come over, and they're going to be, happy on my ship, essentially. So then we think about, like, okay, well, what are all these things actually? So the nets that we put out are going to be social media, your SEO or search engine optimization strategy. You definitely have your kind of, we call it old school. So it's, TV advertisements, radio, magazines, newspaper. Those are going to be other forms of nets. Speaking, networking, all of these things are these nets you put out. So now you've put out these nets, you bring them right up next to your ship. Well, what is your ship? In a digital sense, it's your website. So if you pull them in and they come to your website, and now they don't want to get on your ship. And that's basically what we're calling our conversion rate, right? Like, what's your hit? How many people come to your site and actually sign up? And that's a big, hard part of it, is like, okay, we get them right up to the ship. They've got to choose to jump on. So, having a really great website is important, having a cohesive story. So the story that you told them out on social media, now when they come to your site, they match. They're on this little journey, and they see, like, oh yeah, this is what I saw, this is what I want, I am excited about this, ship to jump on board, and they jump on board, and that's really what you want there. And then you have to keep them on that ship, and the trick to that is that nurturing. It's those touch points. It's obviously being a company with integrity, having, like, the story that you told them match who you are and what you really want to provide to them. And it's also having that technology structure. So, it's a lot of work to do it manually, so if you have a ship where you can, everything's integrated, they come in, who came in and why, what drove them there, and you can speak to them, based on what their interests are. This can all be set up in, with CRMs and automation and, touch points and newsletters and all of these different ways that we nurture them. But it's creating that system that really keeps the little fishies happy. And if they're happy, maybe they'll tell other people. And so at the core of it, what links all of it together, though, is that story of who you are. And it's that cohesion across all of these different nets, as we call it, to keep people happy and sticking with you on your ship.
It's an awesome metaphor. I have one follow-up for you. And
Nice.
just a note, the metaphor is just breaking down for me when I eat the fish. I don't know about anybody else, but other than that, it's fantastic. The nets are
yeah, that's fair.
the nets are something to work on. Get better nets, get better use of these tools. But the ship has to be sound. The product and the website on which the product is purchased, etc. The nurturing, that drip campaigns, touch points, ongoing value to nurture interest into better conversion. That's a really great metaphor. Where in your business, Kanani, where do you see folks faltering the most? Is it the nets, the ship, or the nurturing?
I see people who are successful in, it's almost like people are really good at the net, but not so much at the ship, or they're really good at the nurturing, but not so much the nets. And, it's hard for people to see how all of these different tools and strategies come together to really to flow and to be that, okay, like, you create it and it's work to create it. It's not a simple undertaking to, build a website and put out these nets and all of these things. But if you build it with the intention of, automation systems, kind of scheduling, okay, we're going to, put out a blog article once a month. And it should be reasonable, don't be super ambitious. We're going to blog every day if you've never blogged,
Right.
But you create this, plan and strategy, you build the plan, you work the plan. But what I see breaks down the most is really just being able to tie all of those pieces together. What are the nets? What's the, okay, here's the ship. Did we get them on the ship? Did we keep them on the ship? How many people are jumping ship? And to really understand, okay, this is where reporting comes in and augments and makes sure that we're in the right place. And really just see it as a whole system instead of just, I'm really good at generating leads, or I'm really, my website's beautiful, but I'm terrible at generating leads, and it's really that whole system that needs to come together, and that like bird's eye view of it that comes down into, the daily actions that people take.
Really good stuff. It's a good proxy to talk about the other fundamental of business, which is team, and where you're strong as a founder versus where you're not.
Yes,
story must be in all and through all the roles, but certain roles and people are better at the ship than they are at the nets, than they are nurturing.
True.
So that it's a cool metaphor, again, until I eat the fish, but awesome. Well, in networking time, about 15 minutes, we'll each share other metaphors that might work for us. The hunter-gatherer metaphor, for example, but then again, we're eating stuff. So anyway, Marie, I wanted your thoughts on this because you've seen a lot of businesses. I know SFBI has a really strong kind of bioscientific core. Is story as important for those companies as it is for consumer companies, or do you see it as different?
Depends on what phase they're in, who they're trying to connect with. Every business has to connect with people. They're either looking for team members and employees, or they're looking for partnerships, or they're looking for strategic alliances with larger corporations, or they're looking for investors. Even though a research and development company in pharmaceuticals or biotech devices may not be ready for direct customer sales, and that may never be their model. Their model may be licensing to other large corporations. They still have to connect with people. And honestly, I think those people have the hardest time talking about their business. And because they're talking about something that is unique and it has its own lingo, and this is true of all of us when we get into our acronyms and people start spewing acronyms and nobody knows what they're talking about. When people are talking about, biocell, whatever's, if they can't talk about it in a way that people go, oh, you're solving a big problem that could help the world or my Aunt Gladys or whatever, then, or if they can't talk to an investor in what they're interested in, it's like, here's the market size for this and here's why it's worthy and important. So I do want to make sure people understand that we do have a big tech core. We also have a big service business core. And it's different, but the same for everybody. And it depends on who their target audience is. So our incubator has a lot of different target audiences. I always say we're running 3 companies at the same time, simultaneously trying to reach 3 different audiences. And that is our clientele and the people we serve, the entrepreneurs. We're trying to serve the people that contract with us to do this work, be that public sector and government or charitable foundations or whoever it is that supports us to help and then the broader community, where all this is really about creating jobs and bringing money into the community and keeping businesses going and keeping our economy going. So because of that, everything we do, I have to put on what hat or what is our customer base in this situation? What is our customer base in that situation? So how are we connecting with those people? And it's the same for tech people and biotech companies. They're trying to connect with different audiences at different times for different reasons. And it gets very complicated, but to the extent people can talk clearly about what they're doing, and where anybody, I always say, if a 4th grader or a 3rd grader can't connect to something you're saying, you're not saying anything really.
Thanks, Marie. And we're getting good at this muting thing too as well. So Aunt Gladys and 3rd and 4th graders, I'm taking that away. I think that's super important. That and honestly very difficult. In our portfolio ABQ ID fund, there's NTX Bio, cell-free biosynthesis for proteins. Like I can barely say it yet because like you, Marie, I came from an English major background. I taught English, which is interesting. Both our backgrounds, we share that, but turns out it is a skill that's needed to be able to communicate to my LPs why we're investing in that company. In the end, it's because we could get vaccines and antibacterials faster and at much lower cost. And that's a huge problem that is put in stark relief in the age of COVID-19, where they're telling us 18 months to get a vaccine. So anyway, I really took away from what you just said, and I kind of want Melanie, maybe Olivia, to piggyback on it. You got to tell story, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. How you tell story and where you tell story, etc., depends on what type of company you are. But you do have to tell story, because that's the story is the way that people come in or not. I think what I've seen, and Melanie and Olivia, your takes on it, I've seen that Facebook user founder who has a biotech company think that they're good at Facebook. That's where they should be telling their story, when really it's like direct appeals to specific investors or something like that. I've seen that mismatch of like totally the wrong nets for the boat you're trying to get the fish on, right, Kanani? Good metaphor. Yeah, and Melanie, kick it off with you here, digging into that a little bit more, because you mentioned LinkedIn profiles, about us page, videos, emojis as tools of the trade of storytelling. Where have you seen people faltering, or what advice would you give to founders in terms of looking at how to tell, what nets to use and what nets not to use, based on kind of where Marie was talking about?
God, first, I just have to say, Marie was just absolutely 100% spot on. I couldn't stop nodding my head the whole time she was talking, because it really is, even for, you know, those bigger companies that you would think, like, keep it impersonal. This has got to be professional. Well, you know what? Are you looking for employees? A lot of places are looking also for young employees. They want people to come to their company and bring energy and bring life to it. And if it's all pretty much just a bore fest, and you're not putting any of that energy out there on social media or through the way you write your like about us page at the company, or even your job descriptions, like, let's face it, then you're like it's gonna, that's what you're gonna attract. You just, and I do, just to piggyback off of Maria again, just, it's something that I truly believe in. Smart people dumb things down. Just like Marie said, that fourth grader, like, smart people dumb things down. You meet people, like, you have to be able to communicate so people can understand and know what's in it for them, what you're doing can benefit them or help someone else. Because let's face it, I think that almost everything everyone does has to do with helping someone, something in some different sector. But it's so seldom phrased like that or put that way, but it's so simple. And who doesn't want to support someone who's helping and giving and doing? And just by simply putting that out there and weaving that within the story, can be so helpful.
Olivia, you got, no, that's good. Well, we could talk for ages on this, but
I could talk for hours about it.
We're going to get to networking in 5, 6, 7 minutes. So as you're thinking about these follow-ups for specific speakers, you know, have them ready for when you just talk and engage, because it's about people, right? But Olivia, anything to add before we go into a quick lightning round before we go into networking?
Yeah, I mean, I just again wanted to echo both Marie and Melanie's sentiments. I think one of the things that actually really does work is trying to communicate what you're doing to a first, second, third, fourth grader. Like, just give it a shot and see, because it is literally the easiest way to figure out whether what you're trying to convey is being understood. So that's just kind of piggybacking off of that. That's just a fast tip that I learned works.
Awesome. Everybody who's here participating, go over to the Q&A link right there, and we got a couple of questions. One is just Dan showing how it works, red or green. So while you all are presenting, while you all are saying whether you like red or green, let everybody vote on other questions, or put a couple other questions on there, and then I'll just pick the top one to ask of all of us before we then go into networking here. So Kanani, red or green?
Like Christmas.
Christmas. Marie, red, green?
I can't eat anything spicy. Christmas.
My wife made some red that was just the flavor and none of the bite. It was amazing. So that was pretty cool. Melanie, are you red or green?
Green.
Green. And Olivia?
Christmas.
All right. You know, I'm not a Christmas guy. I have to admit that. You're on the end of the culture when you say Christmas, because only those who are in know that answer. But I'm red through and through. Our top question is, and it's addressed to you, Marie, and let you go first, but then others. What tools do you use to juggle those three clients?
I can hear Sean O'Shea laughing. I think he's on here. I'm always trying to be all things to all people, which really doesn't work, but we try. When we're going to do a newsletter or we're going to put out something on social media, there are times when we're doing something to a particular audience, and that is very simple, very straightforward, and we're using either, you know, I'm doing a presentation today. This is part of outreach. So everything I do, whether that's, I have to say, in our world, we've tried a lot of different things. Facebook reaches a lot of people. have, I don't know, 1,600 or something that follow us. So I think we try a lot of stuff and then we see what works. We do newsletters. We do a lot of engagement in trainings and networking and events and so forth like this. All of those things are important. You got to find what works for you. But each of the client sources that we work with will tweak it a little bit for them. So when I do anything, I go, does whatever I'm doing, does this say what I want to say to each of those groups, even though I'm primarily focusing on one? Does what if somebody else from another customer base is looking at this? Are they going to get value out of it too? So that's one thing we do. Then the other thing we do is we will do certain mailings or outreach or presentations or specifically to just one group. But there's nothing that comes out of our place that we don't go, does it work for this customer base? Does it work for that client base? Does it work for that client base? Or does it offend any of those client bases? Or is it negative for any of those client bases? Because we have to keep them all in mind all the time.
Wisdom. Anybody else have anything to add to that real quick? Any burning wisdom to share?
I'd add to it. One of the things that, just to kind of echo what you guys have been talking about, is this, you want to be able to have that message connect. And one of the really powerful things that technology can do is allow people to go as deep as they would like. So if you think about, when people are just kind of browsing for a solution to their problem, they're just looking at headlines or, headers or whatever. Just like, give me the billboard, not even elevator pitch, the billboard pitch. And, then if they read that and they say, oh, this might be it, then you want to give them just a little bit, your blurb. We're still at a 4th grade level here. But, they click, they like that, and now maybe we give them a paragraph that's at a, maybe we're at 12th grade. And then maybe there's a, link at the very bottom that gives them like, okay, well, here's the study that this is based on, or something like that. But you're able to, let people, you really want to think about your story in terms of what's the, like, one line, just nine words, kind of thing that really says the essence of my story, and then what's the, the tweet length, if you will, that says kind of like, and really what you're doing in these is you're trying to convince people why they should care and why they should bother to read your story. And, if you just present someone with a wall of text, they're never going to read it. But if you say, this is, why you should care, this is a bit more about how this solves your problem, and then, here is the solution, that's when people will actually, read your story, read your wall of text, or go, much deeper and get into that technical information that they might be actually looking for.
TJ, I forgot to mention how important in our world the media is in terms of traditional newspapers, radio, online blogs, those kinds of things, really critically important. Some of our clients have made very good use. Our client, graduate, Woodruff Scientific, he started early on writing a op-ed piece for the newspaper that comes out about once every 2 or 3 weeks. And he's really gotten a following now talking about his company and using our regular newspaper as the medium for it. So I don't think we should forget traditional media in the midst of all this. It's important.
I'll just plus one that. I think for ABQ ID, now part of C&M Ingenuity, it's been a huge part of, and that it can be as simple as, not really a black box. It's as simple as talking to the right reporter and developing a relationship and giving them some good content. They're always looking for good content, and it's amazing the outsized impact that a story could have that took a 15-minute interview versus a blog post that you labor for 3 days on. So yeah, I would echo that. I think for kind of the investor audience, and there is an audience out there, I'll just say, that reads the paper and sees that as a credentialing when the paper is willing to cover you, even if it is a local paper. So that earned media is fantastic. Good stuff. I want to get to the networking. So what I'm going to do is kick it back to Dan. I know Remo's experiment to start here and not start in Zoom and then come to Remo for these sessions. And so I appreciate everybody's willingness to experiment with us. But kick it over to Mr. Dan Heron to tell us how it's going to work from here. And thank you so much, everybody, for that was a very insightful. Got some good book recommendations. Mucho amor, Talk Like Ted, Start with Story, the Anti-CEO Playbook. I'll throw another one in there for writers, but I think good for everybody because it talks about the neuroscience behind it, is Wired for Story. Wired for Story. All right, Dan, back to you.
All right. Well, first off, thank you so much to all the wonderful entrepreneurs that came out today from all over New Mexico. Would love to talk to you about resources. There's some amazing resource providers on today's call, not just on the panel, but also in the participants. So you are going to have the power to move around in this virtual environment in the floor view. So there'll be almost like Minecraft looking tables, and you'll double click. That's the secret for today. Double click. If your double click's not working, try triple clicking, and you will move around to the tables. Each of the organizations represented on today's panel have a table. You'll see on the bottom area of the table will say Santa Fe Innovates, Santa Fe Incubator, etc. They're going to hang out at their tables for at least the first 15 or so to talk to you about specifically that organization. So if you would like to talk with them, be sure to double click or triple click on that table. Okay. If you have any questions, I'll be at the table called Activate NM, and TJ will be at the table called ABQ ID. So if you're interested in training programs that we do or investments items that TJ does, please come talk to us as well. We'll do that for about 15 minutes or so, and then everyone just feel free to experiment, move around, socialize. I know we really could use that right now in today's day and age. So with that, thank you so much and enjoy networking. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye, guys.